Hi, I'm Sharon Wisdom here to talk to you guys about planning and engagement for co-teachers. Of course, I have a timed agenda, and this is how I would suggest anybody move through a class specifically, maybe even having different subtitles within your agenda as you do, and as I have seen demonstrated throughout the district. So that's great. And then I've also seen where people have put in if you're doing it individually or in pairs, depending on the activity for students. So that's another suggestion that can be added in with just an I or a P for partners, that kind of thing. All right, so let's get into it. We've got co-planning. So first, I just want us to think about how we're doing with co-planning. How's that going? Where are our strong suits and where are we needing some more support with co-planning? It's the schedule just not allowing us the co-planning time. And if so, just making sure that you're doing the best with what you have. So when you do have that time, are you using it to the best of your ability? Okay. All right. And then when it comes to co-teaching, just to get started, I also want us to think about which co-teaching model is being used most often by you, and why is that? And are there some other areas that we can touch at, some other models that we can implement? And then how can we make a plan to go forward with that? Right. All right. So for collaborative planning, best practice, all right, you want to make sure that you have a prime time meeting for you guys, right? So some of that is already spelled out for you because that's the way the schedule goes. And then other times you have to kind of be flexible and creative with the time that you have with your partners. So identifying that prime time is very important. Don't want it to be at the end of the day when you're just so tired that you're really not going to get much done. You don't want it to be during a time where you have other meetings or you need to send emails. You want to really be able to have that time be focused. And it should be in a sustained interval, research says, of 25 minutes. So try to have that 25-minute time with your partner. Go straight to where you have to go and begin immediately. Maybe every once in a while, it would be important to go ahead and go over the norms. What is it that you expect to see out of this time? What is partner A doing? What is partner B doing as far as teachers go? And have an agenda. So what are we going to talk about first, second, third, fourth? And then once you create one, you can just reuse that agenda, tweaking it a little bit to fit the needs of that particular meeting. So this is the instructional design tool from Stetson. And I have provided blank copies of this. If you need it again, please let me know. I've got the original and I've got some that I've changed a little bit to meet the needs of our special education teachers and our general education teachers and what I see as a need in the district. But the point of the IDT is that you guys, we can be intentional about what strategies we're using, how we're grouping students, and what supports we're providing for students who struggled, who have been identified, who haven't been identified as special education students. So we want to make sure that we're having that universal design, but also targeting students' needs according to their IEPs. This form can help you do it. You may have another way you'd like to do it. I mean, this could definitely be spiced up. You put your own little spin on it. And create it the way you want. I'm sure you have. So be willing to share those. I hope you will be willing to share that with other people who could also benefit from your creativity. So we've got the objective. What are you teaching? This might come directly from your curriculum map. Your pre-assessment. How do you know what students already know? What's their prior knowledge? What sort of gaps do you have to fill in? What pre-assessment tool are you going to be using? So you want to think about that. as you're reaching your goals. So what instructional strategies? So we have a portion or a section of this for instructional strategies. Are you doing your Kagan structures here? A think, pair, share, a give one, get one, numbered heads, discussion board, a $2 summary, your tweets, your quick writes, your direct instruction, your scaffolded instruction. So all those high impact instructional strategies that are going to engage students to help them gain the knowledge and retain it, you want to kind of list those out. Does it have to be perfect? Does any of this have to be perfect? No, it doesn't. You're just going to do the best you can, kind of outlining what it is you want to accomplish, and then you take it from there. Every class is going to be different. Every day is different, and I understand that. Right. So what grouping strategies are you going to be using? Are students working in pairs, small groups? Do they have assigned roles? Are they working in collaborative groups of 3 or more? So this is the area where you can determine where students are going to be seated or how they're going to be grouped during each of those instructional strategies that we talked about before. Here, I've added a column. What sort of co-teaching model are you going to be using? So even though students are grouped a certain way, you could still have them in those types of pairs or individually, that kind of thing, the grouping. And along with that, what kind of pair are you going to be doing a co-teaching model that is parallel, station, alternative? Is it a team teaching? What is it that you're going to be doing? Noting that we want to try to use one teach, one assist, and one teach, one observe. Seldomly, one teach, one observe is more so for that data taking time. So just keeping that in mind. So really, we want to focus on the parallel, the alternative, and the station teachings. We have the team teaching going on too, and that's great, because those relationships are key. So just trying to see what else we can do beyond that. How are we going to assess our learners? So during each of those instructional strategies, are we thinking about checks for understanding? What is the product? What's the outcome? What do you want students to know by the end of that? By the end of that strategy, or maybe it's a few strategies. Maybe you don't have one for every single step of the way, but periodically you want to have a check for understanding or some sort of assessment to see how students are retaining that knowledge. And then there's a bottom portion on here that has a section for which students have accommodations and who are they, what accommodations do they have, modifications, differentiated instruction, and so forth. This is the area where you can kind of jot that down. You may have it written somewhere else, but as long as you have access to it, not just on the IEP, but somewhere else where you can take a glance at it, like an IEP at a glance, and know these are the things that I need to do specifically for this student. And it's nice to have it embedded inside of your lesson plan, because then you know how it relates to that specific lesson. Okay, these are things that I did in person. So now I'm going to get into accountable talk. So that's through talk moves. This is how we're going to get more engagement from our students. We want our students to be engaged in our lessons, and we can do that through talking. We've seen this quote before, right? So the more talking you do, the less students are going to learn, is my takeaway, right? So the more talking students do, that's where they're going to learn the most. Yes, you do need to instruct and do that in a direct approach, but there are other ways for students to learn and take information from each other. Okay, so think about how much you're talking versus how much your students are talking. Okay, and we did find that in high achieving classrooms, teachers were talking less than in those lower achieving classrooms. Teachers are consuming that time to talk, and then students are not performing as well. So that's something to think about as well. Here are some ideas. Have you ever used these before? So some of the ways that we can engage students through technology or just different activities, here are some ideas to make sure that you're encouraging students to participate. and allowing them, you see I have their wait time, right? So we want to allow them that wait time in all aspects of our lesson plans to make sure that students are given adequate amount of time to think and process, and then explain. All right. So talk moves. Accountable talk that helps all students engage. So even if they don't have the skills, they don't have the will, they don't know how to start, they suffer from anxiety that discourages them from talking or sharing out. These are our talk moves that we're empowering our students with so that they can talk more. So it's like, I thought of it as like a chess game. So it's like those moves that you make in chess. You're giving your students a move to make in your class, in the instruction, right? So they're able to provide adequate answers, and they're able to feel confident, and then they're able to better produce better results in class, right? All right, so even if students will use them exactly as presented, having some language available gives them permission and structure to have a discussion, right? So it's those sentence stems, providing them with when we're talking in pairs, this is how you can possibly respond to someone if you, depending on how you agree, you disagree, you're adding on, and so forth. So the 4 to start with, there are a lot, and they vary. So if you were to Google that, you would find these and so many more. So 4 that I thought were good to start with are agree, answer, add on, and disagree. So the answer one is I have an idea, and that's just a simple thumbs up. So that's easy to remember, easy to teach our kids to do. Agree, that's when you want to do that like same kind of signal, right? So that's when they said what I was thinking, right? I was going to say that too. I agree with them. So you're going to do the same symbol. And then we've got add on, which is that fist over fist. You know, you want to add on to something that someone said, you know, this made, when they said that, this made me think about, okay? So getting that, those thoughts out of students' heads. And then disagree, we've got the finger to the head. I respectfully disagree with. Another way to look at this is, so you'll find these pictures are not my work. It comes from the Siemens Group. And so you'll find that if you look it up. So that's talk moves, right? All right, so here are some examples of some of the sentence starters for answer and agree. So things like, I have an idea, this reminds me of, right? Although we still disagree with the claim overall, it seems to me that we can still agree on. So even though your students might get comfortable and not say it just like that, we can also empower them with the vocabulary to begin to speak like that, because there's nothing wrong with that. But however, it is okay if students do vary from the language a bit. All right, and then here are some for, let me just move this out of your way. Okay. I tried to move it. All right, so I would like to say more about something. So that's the add-on. Disagree. I disagree with Kelly because, and then they give their explanation. And I just use Kelly as an example name. Any name would be able to be filled into those blanks. All right. So talk moves require students to listen, right? So you can provide those handouts for students. You can tape them to their desks. Practice using those phrases and words that help them become better communicators. You also want to make sure you have your norms, of course, right? So you have to have those norms that you've gone through, those expectations, those procedures to engage in conversation that's meaningful. So you want students to have these norms, and maybe even have students help you create these norms so that they can really know them and internalize them. This is a great video to watch with Talk Moves in action. I will link it in the description, and you can take a look at that. So thinking about, right, setting that purpose for your video, I want you to think about how you can intentionally engage students by providing some moves, talk moves, right? So you can take a minute to go watch that, or you can watch it at the end. All right, and so to wrap up here, think about how you see talk moves working in your classroom. Okay, you want to practice using these. So whether it's in a PLC or maybe it's in your shared planning time, talk to each other about those thoughts and use those sentence stems to have those conversations as practice, because the more comfortable you are with it, the more comfortable your students will be with it. Okay. And then share out anything that you guys learned, anything that you think you can take away. Because even if you take away one thing from this video, or anything that I said sparked any kind of creation for something else in your classroom, that is a step in the right direction. All right. So if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me. I would be more than happy to help you think through this. So just let me know. I'm Sharon Wisdom, and I will talk to you soon. Please have a great holiday.